Here is Duke of Dooley, and Duke is a 17-hand, 6-year-old thoroughbred gelding by midshipmen, and this kid had 38 career starts. He didn't make very much though. He worked all hard in those 38 starts. I think he made like 47K on the racetrack. Anyway, he's been here for a week or two, and he's had a handful of post-track rides. And when we made his video for the first video we made of him, which was one day last week, I was riding him in the ring, which is of course where I start riding all of them. And he's just such a big horse, and they all tend to have one shoulder that they want to lean on a little bit more, or maybe be a little heavier on, whatever you want to call it. One shoulder that they're down on a little bit more than the other one. And for him, it's the left. And he's just such a big horse that in my arena, he just needs, it just felt like he needed more space to be able to work on getting straight on that shoulder instead of sort of for him feeling like you're always turning in the 100 by 200 arena. And then the other thing is that he's just such a quiet horse. You know, if he was hot or reactive or, you know, just easily amped up, then going out to the field wouldn't be the answer because then you would be battling all of those emotions. But he's actually just such a quiet, chill horse that for him, the atmosphere of being out in the jump field and by the road, that's not going to bother him at all. And it's a pretty big field. It's several acres. It's probably about five acres of a field. And so you get like 600 feet where you can go here, like in a perfectly straight line. And even on the shorter side, it's still probably 200 to 250 feet. So the idea is just that you don't feel like you're turning all the time. So for him, I could really work on getting that little bit of an idea of a shoulder in. Of course, it doesn't actually look like a shoulder in practice. When we're feeling like we're just getting the hint of it, we're actually just finding straightness. But the point is that extra space allows us the time we need to sort of work on finding that straightness. And for him, it was hugely beneficial. I rode him out here the day before. So what's today? Today's Tuesday. I rode him out here on Monday for the first time, sort of just to make sure that he was not going to find it a big deal and all that stuff, and he didn't. He was wonderful. And so we mostly worked at the walk, a little bit at the trot on finding that straightness in the left shoulder, and he really got it. It felt like he really clicked at the end of that ride. And so today he came out and he just exactly picked up where he had left off the day before, and we had such a great ride. And we found his left lead canter today. We used a log, and being out in the field in the bigger space, it just made the whole thing so much easier. So obviously this is not a long-term solution. Of course, this horse is going to be ridden in a ring, but it will be so much easier to go back into a smaller space once you've established some of the straightness and a little bit of the lateral work that he finds easier out here in a big space. The other thing I just always think, you know, bringing along horses is so interesting because for all of them, it's a little bit of a different answer or a different strategy to sort of figure out what clicks for them. I had a mare a week or two ago named Gravity Hill who wanted to be pretty crooked at first. And for her, she needed to go forward to come straight. So sort of the more wiggly she wanted to be, the more we just pressed on and we came really forward. For him, actually, I found it was the opposite. When he wanted to be wiggling or leaning on one shoulder or the other, he needed to slow way down. So we mostly started in the walk. And then we actually just started in once we were really straight in the walk, we just did like a little teeny Western jog. And I was kind of like sitting the trot because it was just such a slow little trot. But once we found that straightness in a really quiet trot where I felt like I had tons of time to control every step and tell him exactly what I wanted him to do, then we could come forward. And now this is a normal working trot and it's no big deal and he's straight. But it's just so interesting how, you know, we want the same thing out of all these horses, especially when they're young horses like this. They have to learn to be straight, to hold up their shoulders equally. But the way that you go about doing that might be totally opposite from one to the other. And it's not like I know everything. It's not like I just sat on this horse for the first time and was like, oh, obviously this horse just needs to slow down and do this and that. No, the first couple times I sat on him, I messed up a ton and I had to figure it out by making a ton of mistakes in order to lead me to this right answer. But so it's not like this is just immediately obvious to me all the time. But I think the point is that, you know, you have to keep listening to them. You know, you try something, you give it an honest effort, but if the horse isn't responding or it's not clicking, you have to keep trying other things until you find the thing that works for them. So I felt like today we really figured out what worked for him. I was just really happy with him. And actually, I think this is a really lovely working trot he has going on. I'm not sure what he's looking at here. He's found something off in the distance to stare at, but he's very polite about it. And he's not spooky at all. I don't think, now 2 rides we've had out in the field, and I don't think he spooked at a single thing. And we've had dump trailers go by and tractor trailers and cars with loud motors and all kinds of stuff, and he's been perfect. I thought he gave me some really nice work here. It's always easier on this long side because even though we're along the road, and the road can be a little bit distracting, but the fence, I mean, it sort of works the same as the fence in the ring. It just sort of helps your outside aids to get them really, really straight and sort of give you a guide of something to follow as your straight line. On the other side of the field, there's no fencing for that first section, so it's good too. It really forces you to ride, and it checks your outside aids, and it sees how effective you are. But certainly it's easier when you have that guide, the fence line, the whole time. So we did the right canter first. I'm always a fan of letting them do whichever one they find easier first. So for him, that's the right. Actually gave me quite a nice little transition out there. And then it just took me about 5 or 6 steps to get him balanced going up that hill. And then once he has it, he really has it. I thought all this was very good. He's in a really nice balance here. I also should note that it's like 100 degrees here today, so it's super hot. So this ride on him was so fast and easy, which everyone appreciated because it was just so hot. It was nice to get in and out so quick. Alrighty, so now we're just gonna pop over this log that I had spent some time walking over at the beginning of the ride. So he's already seen it, so it's not gonna be a big deal. He actually doesn't do the most graceful pop over the log. A little trip, but that's okay, no big deal. He easily lands on the left lead, and then the left lead canter is lovely. I mean, it's just as balanced and nice as the right. He just needed some more space to feel like he was comfortable for whatever reason. Who cares? I'm just glad he's got it. I'm glad it's lovely. And a couple more rides and it'll be pretty well cemented. He just doesn't understand the cues to pick up the left lead. It's not that he doesn't want to pick up the left lead. He just doesn't quite understand the language that we're speaking yet. But this was quite lovely.